Houston, we may have a solution.
Yeah.
I think that's
nice.
a line too from a movie. Or something.
It's close.
Heard that
close
before as
enough.
well. So yeah, in KC we might have a problem, but Houston may have found a solution. We touched earlier on Will Fuller's big day, but we didn't even get to talk a little bit about just the offense in general. Deshaun Watson having a nice day, big victory for the Texans. So touch on I guess the question out of that game, for me at least, was that more about Houston and Watson and that offense, or was it more about how bad Atlanta might be as a team? So just want your thoughts on.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing because you like to see a team have a big week like that, but at the same time, Atlanta's terrible. Like, they're a terrible defense. They are absolutely embarrassing on defense. So the fact that Watson put up 426 yards and ran for almost 50 and 5 touchdowns is great, and you want to get Fuller going and the offense going, but everybody's doing this against Atlanta. Everybody's putting up big numbers against Atlanta. So I don't know how much to take from it, but O'Brien, maybe he's starting to figure things out there. Maybe I don't know if they all of a sudden fixed their offensive line, which was in disarray. Atlanta's a great team to just hide your offensive line woes. So great game from a fantasy perspective, from an offensive perspective. I don't think he was sacked, it's been a while since we could say that about Watson. So it's a good game, but let's see him do it against somebody good before we get too excited.
We had a Monday night massacre last night. Our first top 10 after week 1, we did the Sunday night massacre. Yeah. Steelers and Patriots.
Wow.
And this week, Monday night brought us quite the
pretty much the same thing. I think it was 33-3 for that one, and this one was 28-3.
Something.
And I think it could have been a lot more.
Right. I mean, and the whole time, it just didn't even really feel close. It was ugly football on one side and very good-looking football on the other side. So, yeah, my Niners, I mean, they clearly came out. They played well. What?
I don't know. I was thinking about something happening. Yeah.
I'm excited about their defense.
We told you guys last week that our prediction was that the 49ers would lose their first game last night.
Who said that?
I don't know who that was.
I don't think that was us.
Two bald,
no,
heavily medicated a-holes.
You want to get high? No, we don't want to get high.
It's probably
so anyway, we were way off. We thought that, wow, they finally got it going. Kitchens woke this team up. He's on the hot seat, not anymore. Well, now, bam, he's right back on it. Like, what was that last night? Terrible. Offensive line is in disarray.
There is no offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's offensive.
Yeah.
It's an offensive offensive line.
Absolutely.
I think you spell them the same way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know if that, if you spell it the same way, but the result is the same. I mean, Baker, look, he's got his own, he has to take some of the blame. His accuracy, hasn't been very spot on at all. But again, I mean, what can you do with that kind of offensive line? I mean, I'm not exaggerating. If you watch the game, you see he drops back and he's being hit. Yeah. I don't understand what offense can operate, with that limited amount of time. So it was a heartbreaker, obviously, if you're a Browns fan. If you're a Niners fan,
yeah, you're happy.
You're feeling a lot of joy. My question, I guess, though, just real quickly on the Browns, I think really OBJ is the guy that most sticks out to me, because last week what was interesting is they went in and they did what they had the big victory against Baltimore on the road, and that's with Odell Beckham Jr. not doing much. Right. And now this week they have the beatdown that they take, and once again OBJ doesn't do much at all. So take away that big game against the Jets, which we know was really one play against a pretty porous defense from what we've seen from them.
Just one play. Those guys can break it. Anybody can break it. Those speedsters, yeah.
So, panic-wise or on the panic scale, how worried are you about OBJ?
I'm totally worried about anybody on that offense not named Chubb. If I had OBJ right now, I'd be very worried. I wouldn't be as worried as I would be, like, say, for Stephon Diggs, where they just don't want to throw.
Right.
It's not that they don't want to throw. They just got to figure out that offensive line. But I just don't know how you figure out offensive line.
I don't think there's, I mean...
When you mentioned trading maybe Kareem Hunt to like somebody like the Redskins for Trent Williams. Try to get an offensive lineman. There is one of the best in the game sitting there.
Right.
Now, Daniel Snyder's a egomaniac. I don't think he wants to trade him just because he wants to punish him. He wants to set an example. Hey, listen, you defy me, and you're not going to get rewarded for it and go to a contender. But you got to do something. I just don't know what you do with offensive line when it's this bad. There's a lot of teams with bad offensive lines. What do you do? I just don't know. It's the one position you just can't find.
No, right. And, that's, we talked about it, that we always focus so heavily on the skill position players and not a lot of talk on the offensive and defensive line for that matter. Mm-hmm. But in real football, that's what matters.
Yeah. And in fantasy, obviously, because real football is fantasy.
Well, right.
If Baker Mayfield goes back and is pressured, as you were saying he was all last night, which he was, obviously, that's it. You can't perform. You can't run the ball effectively. Right. So the offensive line, we talked about this, back in the day. Emmitt Smith had, one of the best offensive lines of all time. Barry Sanders had one of the worst. Every time he got the ball, he'd be 3 yards back and dodging people, trying to make people miss just to get to the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And he was so great, probably the greatest runner of all time.
Bears 43-yard line, and it's Barry Sanders trying to take advantage of a slight opening, and he breaks it, and he'll go all the way. Touchdown. Sanders found the hole. Puts the He turns it completely around. Watch it. Here. Goodbye. Hello. Where are you? Thank you.
People had to make up signs like that. I mean, they ought to just, go to their home. Sanders still on his feet, and Sanders is gone.
That he was able to make it work.
Do it, right.
But Emmitt Smith and different guys that just have these offensive linemen that just open up these gigantic holes. It's huge. Not to mention the quarterback goes back to pass. He gets to use play action, gets to get protection. Without an offensive line, your team is done. There's nothing you could do. So the Cleveland Browns are in a lot of trouble.
We're going to talk about them in another segment, so I don't want you to go too far into them. But just quick question. Rest of the way, OBJ or DJ Chark?
Oh, DJ Chark, I mean, you could make it a lot more challenging than that. I would take him over OBJ hands down.
Wow.
I wouldn't even blink.
Wow.
DJ Chark. DJ Chark.
There's nobody on that offensive line that's injured right now that's coming back, so there's no fixing that offensive line. The bottom line is the talent's not there. The talent on the other side of the ball is just better than the talent of your offensive line. I mean, so we'll use that to segue into San Fran, and they came into the game 3-0, undefeated, but not real respected.
No, not at all.
That's the story of my life. No respect. I don't get no respect.
Nobody, we weren't quite sure.
If they were the
was
real
this
deal.
a fluky 3-0? What is this team? How good are they? And really, because I think they're a West Coast team, it's San Fran. I didn't really know anything about San Fran in general, other than their fantasy players. I own Kittle, for example. I will see what Jimmy G does, or something like that. But watching that team last night, and that defensive line, and Nick Bosa. And I mean, the fact that they have Sherman, they have a very solid secondary. It's not elite, but it doesn't have to be when you have a defensive line and they're getting pressure rushing 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were showing one play where, they rushed 4. You got 7. They're dropping 7. Sure, you can take away OBJ and Landry and all those guys. When you got 7 that can drop back and
get
4.
Pressure. And get pressure.
Yeah,
Bosa's a one-man wrecking crew.
Lethal. So
they're a great defense. They have a great defensive line, as you're saying. They have a great running game.
Yeah, I was just going to say, then the other side of the ball.
They have a great running game. Jimmy G is a good manager, and he's a winner. He's a proven winner. I got to say, with all those running backs, Coleman came back. They said he was going to ease him back. Guy looked like a shot out of a cannon. Breida looked amazing. They brought in Mostert for mop-up duty. Wilson was inactive.
Right.
And they have Kittle. Listen, the offensive weapons on the receiving side are very vanilla. You got guys like Pettis and Samuel and Goodwin. It's not exciting. If he had a true number one, this team would be really scary. That's the one thing they seem to be lacking. Yeah, Kittle's very good. But there's a lot of teams that have a good tight end.
Right.
But they also usually have a better receiving core. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But Shanahan said today they want to run. So
So real quickly on that, I mean, they obviously it looks like Kyle Kushek.
Yeah, he's out 4 to 6. Yep.
4 to 6.
That's their fullback. I mean, it's a big piece of the offense. So
I don't very often put a lot of credence and faith into what Booger McFarland has to say.
Yeah.
But
wow,
I know you do. I know you love boy Booger.
The fact that you just brought him up on our show is just sad.
Is it? So I miss last year when they had Booger up on a crane
that's
thing,
where he belongs.
Overlooking the field or whatever.
Yeah, with a muzzle on. That's where he belongs.
They would check up. They would check in with him every now and then. But
yeah, he'd be bird watching and stuff up there. And
now he's full blown.
Yeah, they're gonna have to put him back. He's terrible. He really is terrible.
Does he need to retire?
Yeah, he needs to retire with Cam and all those.
Poor Booger.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he dresses pretty well though. I gotta give him that, man. He's got some style, that man.
Got swag.
He's got swag.
So Booger McFarland, when that injury happened, he made it seem like that. And he referenced a few things that I didn't know, that Kyle Kushek is one of the highest paid running backs, even though he's a fullback. That entire zone blocking scheme relies very heavily on the fullback and what he can do in that role.
Yeah, it's a big injury.
They probably don't carry a second fullback. What team would? I doubt there's anything just,
Can Jeff Wilson, can he come in and block? I don't know. I mean, he's the goal line. He seems to be a pretty big guy.
We'll see.
I don't know what
they
they're
gave
going to
him
do.
a lot of money, and I think it's because of what his unique skill set and what he can do. Now, so I'm not saying the running game I think is going to crumble completely, but according to Booger McFarland, that's a bigger injury than maybe people are giving it
see what happens
for.
with that.
But absolutely.
But they're for real. They're no longer a facade. They're for real, and they came out of the bye week. And they just were firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely.
So if you're a San Fran fan like you are, I mean, you got to be very happy.
Fly Niners fly.